first time I noticed something was wrong was when I found Trevor in the woods behind our town. Knees dug into the moss like he was praying, mouth agape in permanent surprise, and not a hint of breath in his lungs. He'd vanished for 2 days. When we pulled him out of the clearing, his skin had the color and texture of melted wax left out in the sun. He was only 25, but in death, Trevor looked 90. That's not the kind of thing you see and forget, especially when you've known someone all your life. We buried him under slate gray skies, the wind loud and cold, like it was warning us of something. No autopsy, no foul play, just a vague conclusion of sudden deterioration. A phrase that means much less the more you think about it. That was the first. By the time the third young man in town was found looking the same, I started keeping notes. Back then, I was living in that crumbling cottage on the edge of Barrow Hill. The one with warped window frames and knotty boards that groaned like old bones with every gust of wind. It gave me a view of the town and, more importantly, a view of her house, Mirabel. She came to our town last spring, said she was a naturalist, herbalist maybe. She rented the old Hadley house, the one no one had touched since the fire. The place had been charred and broken for decades, but when she moved in, it bloomed, like it had been waiting for someone like her. Ivy crept down its sides, not with decay, but with purpose, rich, green, and full of life. The windows shimmered like liquid glass. I remember thinking, she must have paid a fortune for it, or maybe it just gave itself to her. She was beautiful, sure, but not in a way you could define. Her hair was dark, like the space between stars, and her skin always glowed. Not in that greasy, artificial way, but like light was trapped just beneath it. She smelled like lavender and crushed leaves, and when she looked at you, her eyes were too still, like paintings pretending to be alive. People liked her, especially the women. She hosted workshops, tincture blending, nature walks, candle making. The young women in town hung on her every word, and they changed, slowly at first. They started looking rested, dewy, serene. Skin cleared, lips reddened, cheeks flushed. Even the shy ones walked taller after a few evenings in Mirabel's parlor room, where the fire crackled a little too perfectly, and the tea smelled like rain. But then there were the men. They came too, at first, always invited by someone else, and they never lasted more than a week or two. One by one, they disappeared. Not gone, just hollowed out, diminished. Some moved away, some were found wandering, confused, speaking in whispers about the voice in the vines. And a few, like Trevor, were found dried out, like someone had wrung them of essence. I didn't know what I was looking for at first, but I knew it centered around her. So I watched. She wasn't careful. Or maybe she didn't care. She walked barefoot in the garden at night. Her lips moved when no one was near. I saw her once, crouched low in her herb patch, fingers buried deep in the soil, whispering a melody that made my teeth ring. The trees around her bent slightly toward her, leaves trembling. And one night, I followed her. She left the house just after midnight, drifting like smoke in a sheer shawl that shimmered even without light. I stayed low in the underbrush as she walked toward the woods behind the church, the one with the old stone well that dried up decades ago. She carried a small clay flask and a long silver needle. There was someone waiting for her there, a man, young, tall, smiling like he'd been kissed by a dream. I recognized him. Jessie Mullins just started working at the garage. She greeted him with a touch to the cheek, and they sat on the stone rim of the well. What I saw next, I still don't know how to describe it. She leaned in, her mouth at his neck, and instead of kissing, she inhaled. Deep, like breathing in steam. The sound was sharp and soft at the same time, like leaves rustling in reverse. His shoulders dropped, and he sighed like he'd been emptied of something vital. His skin paled. His lips cracked. She whispered something I couldn't hear, and gently pushed him backward. He stumbled off into the trees, slow and unsteady. She uncorked the clay flask and held the silver needle over it. A single drop of some glistening essence, pale lavender, almost transparent, slipped from the needle's tip and fell into the vial. I didn't sleep that night. In the following days, Jesse quit his job, said he was moving to Florida to be near the ocean. But his voice sounded hollow, like he was repeating something he'd been told to say. His eyes darted too much. He barely recognized me. Through it all, the women who visited Mirabel only glowed brighter. The worst part, they didn't know. It wasn't vanity. It wasn't even ignorance. It was enchantment. I could see it in the way they smiled when they spoke about her. Like they'd found salvation. Like she was the only thing that made them feel real. I tried confronting one of them. Elsie, my old friend from school. She laughed, told me I sounded jealous, that Mirabel had helped her find her truth. Her skin was flawless as porcelain, but her hands trembled when she stirred her tea. I knew I couldn't fend against her alone, so I visited the town records, dug through dusty books by candlelight in the basement of the library. I searched for anyone named Mirabel, any sign of someone resembling her. What I found instead were stories, entries in old journals, margins of books marked with cryptic notes. One from 1812 described a woman named Mirella, a healer who came during a famine and left after all the men in town fell ill and withered. Another, from 1903, spoke of a woman called Mirabel who lived in the forests and was adored by the women, but feared by the priests. The handwriting in every account was different, but the descriptions were the same. Her face never changed. She'd been here before, dozens of times, different names, same purpose. She was no herbalist. She was something far older, a collector. That night I returned to her cottage. It was raining, soft and cold. The trail to her house was slick, but the trees parted unnaturally, inviting me in. Her windows flickered with candlelight. The door creaked open without a touch. Inside, the air smelled of crushed flowers and iron. The walls were lined with glass bottles, each containing a single glowing drop of something too pale to be called liquid. In the center of the room stood a cauldron carved from stone, steam rising from its surface. It smelled like honeysuckle and rot. She was waiting for me. "You've been watching," she said, not angry, not surprised. Her voice was like velvet smothering a scream. I backed toward the door. She didn't follow, just watched. "They come willingly," she murmured, tracing a finger along the rim of a bottle. "Their hearts are soft, their bodies forget, but their essence, that lingers, it nourishes, it transforms." "You're taking their lives," I said, my voice shaking. "And giving it to what? To make beauty out of their ruin?" She tilted her head, studying me. "What is youth, if not borrowed time?" I don't remember leaving the house. I just remember cold air hitting my face, and the sense that something unseen was laughing behind the trees. I tried to warn people, I really did. I told them everything. They looked at me like I'd lost my mind. And maybe I had. Mirabel still lives there. The women still visit. And the men, well, they still vanish, only slower now, more discreetly. And every time I pass her home, I see the garden bloom out of season. I see the windows pulse softly with light. And I feel her eyes. She's watching, waiting. And I know that one day, when the town grows tired of her, or doubts begin to bloom in too many hearts, she will vanish like mist before morning. Leave behind nothing but glowing bottles and rumors. And eventually, she'll return. New name, new smile, same hunger.